So, it's June 1836. Times are different. No cars, no planes. Electricity is a sort of vague idea that might amount to something one day. It's only just become illegal to marry your dead wife's sister. It's a grand time to be alive. You're a mischievous young urchin who's staying out of trouble by heading out to hunt rabbits on Arthur's Seat with your pals. And it's all going well for you, not for the rabbits, when lo and behold, you stumble upon this. Loads of weird tiny coffins in a little cave in the hillside. Grim. Well-behaved kid that you are, you run and tell a grown-up. And then a bunch of grown-ups come to look at the weird little coffins. And frustratingly, not a single one of them knows what they are. They're a mystery. And though you don't know it yet, they're a mystery that's going to stay mysterious for at least 100 years, if not more. These are the Arthur's Seat miniature coffins, and we have no idea what they are, who put them there, or why. Okay, enough about what we don't know. Here's what we do know. There were 17 tiny coffins arranged in 2 rows of 8, with one extra one on top. Each coffin contained a tiny carved wooden figure complete with handmade clothes that had been sewn and glued onto them. 8 of the coffins survive to this day. You can go and see them in the National Museum of Scotland in Edinburgh. The other 9 are currently lost to history. Apparently, the boys who found them either kept or trashed a few, and it's likely that private collectors got hold of the others. So while the majority of these bizarre artefacts haven't survived, the mystery certainly has. What are they? What are they for? Are there any more of them? Do they have names? Are they junk? Are they valuable? Are they some kind of weird sex thing? We may never know, but that shouldn't stop us speculating wildly. Theory number 1, as espoused by the Scotsman newspaper, is witchcraft. Based on, it seems, little more than a hunch, they published an editorial in 1836 which said, "Our own opinion would be, had we not some years ago abjured witchcraft and demonology, that there are still some of the weird sisters hovering about Mushat's Cairn or the Windy Gowl, who retain their ancient power to work the spells of death by entombing the likenesses of those they wish to destroy." Gosh, that's certainly atmospheric, isn't it? While it's certainly possible to pin the coffins on witches, there are also plenty of other people who might have made and hidden them as part of some kind of ritual. There are records of old traditions which could explain the dolls. Sometimes miniature dolls would be buried as a sort of substitute when someone was lost at sea and couldn't get a land-based burial, or if they died while abroad in a distant land. And there are records of German sailors carrying with them little dolls in coffins as good luck charms. Perhaps this custom extended to Scotland for a brief time, leading someone to create a stash of dolls. But if we take a closer look, the plot thickens. The clothes sewn and glued onto the dolls are made from types of cloth that were available only from around 1830 onward, which means that they weren't ancient after all. In fact, they'd been buried at most 6 years before they were found. Additionally, the materials they were made from suggest that they were made by a shoemaker or someone with the tools and materials of a shoemaker. And furthermore, that they were originally designed to be able to stand. Markings on the dolls suggested that they might have been wooden toy soldiers. Thus, we have another possible theory, that they were stuck into coffins and buried by, well, kids. Because kids do weird stuff all the time, even back in the 1800s. We can add one more possible origin to the mix if we take a look at what was happening in Scotland around the time the dolls were hidden. The 1830s were a busy decade. The McVitie's Biscuit Bakery was founded, a mini meteorite fell on Perth, and it became legal for individuals to sell one another a cool, refreshing beer. Oh, and Burke and Hare murdered a bunch of people. If you haven't heard of Burke and Hare, the short version of their story is this. In the early 1800s, Scotland was at the forefront of medical research. Doctors were dissecting corpses left, right and centre, dissecting corpses so fast, in fact, that they almost ran out of corpses. And so it came about that if you had a dead body going spare, you could take it along to the university and donate it to medical science in exchange for a handsome fee. Corpses, in fact, could fetch as much as £7 apiece, which doesn't sound like that much by modern standards, granted, but it was a tidy sum back in the day. William Burke and William Hare weren't rich men. One was a door-to-door salesman, and one a coalman's assistant. When Hare's lodger dropped dead of dropsy, they covertly sold his corpse and made a decent profit off it. Then, mad lads that they were, they murdered 16 people and sold their bodies too. The mischievous pair were eventually caught and put on trial. Burke was executed and then, as was apparently acceptable at the time, was dissected and had his skin turned into a pocketbook. Ew. Hare, meanwhile, escaped the death penalty by giving evidence on his co-murderer, narrowly escaped a baying mob several times, and was ultimately banished to England. We'll let you decide which fate is the worst of the two. Their gruesome story has gone down in infamy ever since. So much so that even to this day, several venerable institutions in Edinburgh are named after them. Anywho, the point of all of this is to say, 16 killings? 17 dolls? Coincidence? Probably. But the dolls were hidden shortly after the pair's killing spree. It's not impossible that whoever put them there were perhaps intending to memorialise the victims of these prolific killers. The long and short of it is, we don't know who put them there and we don't know why they were put there. The most we can say is they're kind of creepy and kind of cool. You should go look at them. And if you've got a theory, leave a comment below. Bye!